Welcome to another episode of Living the Good Life show, guys. Our mission is to interview people all across the world in order on their faith, family, finance, and fitness, the 4 Fs. Our mission is for us to learn from them and not to make some of life's common mistakes in order to live the good life. Our guest today, I was able to sort him out. He lives out in Arizona. He's a keynote speaker and author. The book is called Sharing Fresh Post Recipe on Mindset, Workplace, Culture, and My Life. His name is Frank Kitchen. His team is a green background, as you can see, and he's been green all along. I saw him in a green suit once, or most of the time. So Frank, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Ray. Thanks for having me on. I guess I'm the 5th F now, so you've got Frank. So we're going to have some fun today.
There you go. Quite true, quite true. Good. So Frank, most of the time I would start our interview, and the question I would ask you: are you living the good life in your faith, your family, your finance, and your fitness?
Yeah. I'd say I'm working to live the good life. I mean, I think there's something we always have to strive for. So am I happy where I am now? Yes. But are there places I still want to go? Yes, I've got that internal piece. So I never want to get too comfortable. I want to push myself because there's still so much that I want to do.
Good. And what is your definition of the good life?
So my definition for the good life is, that's a tough question, but like the easiest way to say it is you're able to live what you're thinking. I mean, so usually when I'm on stage, I say, don't think about it, don't talk about it, live it. So for me, the good life is if you've got this vision in your head, are you putting the work in to actually live it? So that's why I said I've got a lot more things in my head that I still want to live. So am I living a good life now? Am I enjoying where I am in life? Yes, but there's still so much more I want to see.
Wow. Good. Pretty interesting. So listen, Frank, we're going to take this conversation here for my audience. So thanks to my audience for listening, of course. Today is a very interested guest we have here. So Frank focus on mindset, workplace, culture, and my life. And keeping our theme together, which is the 4 Fs, I'll ask you to tell us your story, how you moved and how you changed your life and transformed to where you are today.
Okay. The quick story, we'll see if we can go quick. I know we've got about 20 minutes here, is I had a big dream where I wanted to become a professional speaker. And when I first started to try to become a professional speaker, I wasn't around the right people. I wasn't in the right environments, and I didn't put the right amount of effort into it. And it led to me working for an employer who laid me off. And quite simply, I got laid off on Father's Day with my wife pregnant, and we were going to go see her father and her mom Father's Day weekend. And I had to explain, hey, your third grandchild is on the way and I have no job. And, I want to be a professional speaker. And at this moment, that's when I realized I had been talking about this big dream for years, but I really hadn't put the work into it. And then I started to recognize some of the environments and the cultures that I had placed myself in had impacted my mindset negatively, where I wasn't pushing myself. I wasn't challenging myself. I wasn't trying to get better. And I recognized that was my fault because that was my choice. So that day I committed saying, hey, you know what? Talk to my wife, like, give me 1 year full commitment to make this happen. And that was almost 8 years ago. And I've been a full-time professional speaker ever since. I mean, so the case was where your mind goes, your body follows. So the idea is it's one thing to have the dream, but you got to put the work in to live it.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. So Frank, I know you had this vision and all of that, but did you have any previous knowledge, previous background into public speaking?
I did. I mean, and that's the sad part, if you want to say about part of my story, was I used to book speakers for years. I booked entertainers. So I understood that part of the business. But when I came to the opposite side of it, like I understood the art of public speaking, but I didn't really understand the business of it. And I really wasn't putting in the work. I was lazy. I was like, I expected it to happen. And especially here in the United States, I've told people a lot of the American ways become to either blame other people for why you're not successful or to just kind of wait and hope that it would happen, which is very passive. Sure. So my ultimate story, and like you said, I've got all this green on around me. I'll wear green suits and green is a reminder for me that green is the color of action and growth. In order to grow personally or professionally, we must take action. It doesn't just happen. So we idolize and we watch these people all around the world. And we see where they are, but we never really pull back the curtain to find out what are the actions or the steps that they had taken to get to where they are.
Wow. You know, that's a mouthful. That's so much of a mouthful. Pull back the curtain and look behind and see what path they walk in order to get there and how they developed and grow. So
Yeah.
what were some of your struggles, Frank, as you start out as a public speaker?
Yeah, some of my struggles, like I said, the first piece was ultimately just believing in myself. Many times in our mind is designed to protect us, so we don't get hurt, so we don't stress ourselves too much. And many times what we'll do is we'll self-justify why something can't happen to protect ourselves. So the brain can point us to go into a direction that, is ideal for us, or it can hold us back. So what was holding me back for a while was, and this happens with a lot of professional speakers, we got a lot of friends, is just internal doubts. So I was like, you know what? It's not the right time. So that was a way of keeping me from getting hurt. You know what? I'm not famous. That would make me think about not getting hurt. I don't have enough money right now. I don't have a tragic story. So all these, self-doubts actually held me back, recognizing that, stop thinking about that. Start thinking about what you do have. What's your knowledge? What's your experiences? So as you said, pretty sad. I had booked speakers and entertainers for almost 15 years. I had been a trainer before. I've got that. I've had to speak in front of groups. I should have been focused more on what I can do and what I should be doing versus what I can't do or what I thought wouldn't happen. So that was the big piece, was what's between my ears. That was holding me back. I was doubting myself versus having confidence in myself.
But that's true not only in public speaking, in most things that someone wants to engage in, that they would have that fear of I don't know anyone who's going to hire me, and they talk themselves out of the deal instead of work themselves into the deal. Wow.
Yeah, it's so true, because I was just speaking with a group last week, and I was sharing with them, there's like 5 things that I went through, and a couple things that hold us back. And I say, when you have this great idea in your head or something you want to go for, it's almost like having a big fire, and that's the excitement piece. But how do you keep that fire going? And many times our mind or the people we surround ourselves with or the environments will dump water on that fire. So some of the things that I doubted myself was, I told you I was waiting. So waiting, as it says, it means you're waiting for an idea to turn out. So waiting means you're passive. So wait, you should start working on it today. I would lie to myself why I couldn't do something versus, okay, well, figure out how to make that happen. I would start caring about the opinions of people who didn't value me. So I was so worried about what other people would think about me going for this career versus I should have surrounded myself with people like Ray's like, hey, Frank, come be on my podcast, share more information. I should have put myself in those places. So those are just a few of the things that were holding me back, was just, lying to myself, judging things, caring way too much, waiting, hoping for things to happen. And once I recognized, the reason all my, and we call it failure, or I fell on my face, it was me. We all oftentimes think it's other people who impact us, but I was like, the number one person who impacts us, transforming a vision to a reality, looks at us in the mirror every day. It's ourselves.
Yeah, quite true. So what did you do to stay focused? And I know it was a long journey for you. You had to stay on course. I mean, you can be hyped up for the first month, but then after the reality hits, how do you stay on course?
Well, early on, I had, my wife was my girlfriend, and it was just about me. So I really wasn't, I didn't have to worry about it. It's like, I'm just taking care of myself.
Right.
But what really kept me focused was the fact that when my wife, my girlfriend became my wife, or when we had kids, because when I lost my job, my son was 2, my wife was 6.5 months pregnant. So our daughter was only a few months away. That actually kept me focused, because the case of, do you want to go live under a bridge? Or I joked around with my father-in-law. I make the comment to him he goes, Frank, what kept you focused? And I go, we didn't want to live with you. As much as I love my father-in-law, and he laughed at it, so he had the same reaction, he goes, what drove you? And is almost that case of the sense of failure, going, I can't take care of my family. That's what drove me. It was this case of, I want to take care of them. I want to, my kids to see me as someone, who is successful, and not successful in a money sense, but successful in, okay, his dream is to take care of his family. He didn't talk about it. He actually made it happen. So that was the big drive, was not letting my wife down, not letting my son down, not letting my daughter down.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. And that keeps you going right through, right?
Yeah, I mean, even now, like if I have to make phone calls or emails or have late nights, that pain from the past drives me now, because I'm like, I never want to be in that position again. I never want to put my family in jeopardy again, because at that time when I'd lost my job, it was like the 3rd job that I had lost, just because of just poor choices. And I'm going, okay, it's like the only thing you can control right now is the work you put into your business, making the phone calls, making the connections, accepting interviews like this. That's on me. It's on nobody else. So I want to put that work in. And the way I've benefited from it is I got to watch my kids take some of their first steps while I'm working from home. They get to travel on trips with me. I mean, there's things that I've done now, places I've traveled I never thought I would before, because all I did was I made a mental commitment to put the work in.
Well, that's pretty interesting. And I'm sure a lot of my listeners can relate to lots what you're saying, including myself, guilty of having that fear and not having that burning desire or that extra push to say, whatever it is, go get them, go get it done,
And I love how you said that, fear, because that's the big thing is fear can either hold you back or fear can drive you. So I choose to have fear drive me versus to hold me back. So many people are like, oh, you know what? You reached out to me. Well, will Frank say no? He's probably going to say no. He won't be on my show. So then they never send the email or the phone call, where you're like, fear's like, well, hey, what if I don't write to Frank or call him and ask him to go and do? You're thinking more what can happen versus what can't. And that's what started to go was I started getting myself around people where we're going, hey, you know what? What if that happened? Versus the people would say, what if that doesn't happen? So I'd have some people like you. It's like, hey, Frank, what if you get on that stage? You're like, okay, you're a little more encouraged and empowered, where people are using that, fear of, hey, will you feel worse that you didn't make the phone call or that or that you did? And that's the big piece is when you go for something that you really want, that you're passionate about, you got a better chance of achieving it than it not happening. So many times we just have to trick this thing between our ears to say, hey, you know what? That's where I want to go, versus don't hold me back and go in the opposite direction.
Right. You talked earlier about association, Frank. In order for you to be successful, and that's a good point. Elaborate a little more on that for us.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, we hear all the different stats and studies about we're, a reflection of the people that we surround ourselves with. But as I said, when I had many employers that I worked with before I went full time, many people were like, you should just be happy where you are. Why, you have a job. Why are you trying to push? Why you're going? And I recognized those beliefs, that mentality, that mindset started to go in me. I'm like, okay, this is where I am. You know what? Maybe speaking is not meant for me. This is not going to be for me. But it's something when you get around other driven people. And when you talk about the association, when I got fired from my job, I'd signed up for a speaker showcase that week. And when I went to go speak, I met another speaker there. His name is Joe Fingerhut. You should bring him onto your show. And I spoke in the morning, and the next session after me was Joe. And I went to go watch Joe speak. I'm like, okay, I like what he's doing. I like his style. And then I invited him back over to dinner that night at my in-laws' house. Well, the thing was, we connected there. We became friends. A few years later go by. We're like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to work together? Then COVID hit. And we've been helping each other with business, sharing leads and challenging each other to get our businesses to grow. And Joe came over or called me up and he goes, hey, Frank, he goes, COVID hit, wiped our whole speaking calendars out. And he goes, okay, well, let's apply what we speak on and teach right now to our business. He goes, we're not going to be able to mow lawns. He's like, that's not going to take care of our families. So I should have seen him as competition, but he's not. I saw him as a partner. We partnered together and worked over 30 times the last 3 years, and our businesses grew. Then we said, okay, you know what? We should go for this honor with the National Speakers Association. It's called Certified Speaking Professional. It recognizes you as one of the top speakers in the world. Less than 1,000 people have ever earned this. I mean, that sounds kind of crazy. 8 billion people on the planet, only 1,000 people have ever earned this. We're like, let's go do it together. So last year, I earned it. Joe did not earn it. Wow, and we felt bad because we're friends, but he supported me all the way through and came to watch me at the award ceremony, took me out to dinner. And I go, you know what? I will do the same thing for you next year. You got to go back and go for it again. He applied for it, got the phone call the other day, and now he's got it. I mean, so that's a case where when you have two people associated who've got the same mentality of let's help each other out, let's grow together. We're not competition. What's the big goal? What can we manifest? It's amazing that energy, how it's contagious. Because we always think about contagious being a negative term. It's positive and negative. So you can have a negative person, which will have a negative effect on you. Or if you've got a positive or driven or productive person around you, it will be positively contagious because I'm like, well, if Joe's doing that, why am I not doing that? If Ray's doing that right now and I see this success, why not? I'm like, they're laying out you're laying out the groundwork, the framework of what we can go and do. So what we have to do is in this world, we're one click away from connecting with positive and productive people.
Quite true.
So the question is, are we willing to one click away on LinkedIn, one click away on Instagram, one click away on TikTok, whatever it is, to reach out to those people and just ask the questions? What have you done? What didn't work for you? What worked well for you? How badly do you want it? You know, how badly are you hungry to get to that spot? And a lot of people will just stay passive and like, you know what? They're never going to talk to me because they fear getting hurt. Versus the productive people like, you know what? If I ask that person, even if they say no, I'm still in the same spot and I'll reach out to somebody else because somebody will help me out. And that's the mentality we have to take.
Quite true. And again, I thank you for coming on because, you know, I see you now as a student to yourself, meaning you want to learn and you will take anything. When I say anything, any opening that you can connect with people and share your content and you contact, right? I mean, we were cold to each other.
Yeah.
Not anymore. It just happened, right?
And as you said, because you and I are in similar circles, your association with people and my association with people got us connected and allows me to be a guest on your show. So you've actually used, once again, your association, because most people might say, oh, you're crazy. You're going to start a YouTube channel and a podcast. Have you ever done it before? And those are the people who are fearful of being hurt.
Yes.
As I said, you're going like, what if this will get me one step closer? Every time I interview somebody, I'm going to get a little bit better. And the more people I bring in, the more people are going to see it, the more people I get the impact and, you know, see. And then you've got your sons who can watch you do. I mean, so you're working on being that role model of what you can do versus the role model of what you can't do.
It's well said, Frank. I appreciate that. Thank you. And yeah, my being on these shows and talking to people like yourself and others, you know, it just take me to the next level. And talking to a guy like you, it sure me take me to another level that I could talk about. Awesome. Now you one of the first thing you talk about the mindset.
Yes.
Mindset. Dwell a little bit more on mindset for us, Frank.
Okay. So with my last name being Kitchen, we're going to make this like let's call it Kitchen inspired right now. So I'm going to give you a great analogy. And here's what I think about mindset. Your mindset is your mental cookbook. All right. So when we're hungry for something, that's a dream, a passion, a purpose. When we're hungry, we want to feed that hunger. And many times we need a plan or a recipe to make it happen. Now, if we're hungry for, let's do this. We're doing the podcast right now. We're hungry to do a podcast and you go to your cookbook and there's no plan, there's no recipe there. You think, you know what? I can't do it. And you give up. Versus if you go to this cookbook and there's several recipes, you're like, oh, wait, there's several different ways to feed this hunger. So your mindset, I say, is your mental cookbook. And that cookbook is filled with recipes based off of the experiences, the connections, and the relationships that you have. So are we putting ourselves around people who are filling this with opportunities and recipes for what can happen, or is it empty? That's what your mindset is. So for many of us, the mindset, there's nothing there, so we don't challenge or pursue anything because it's not there. But then there's the other group who goes, oh, even if there's nothing there, let me go find other people who are hungry, other cooks, other chefs, where I can replicate their recipe, find their recipe, put it into, like you said about being a teacher, into my cookbook so I can rely off of that. So if you don't have the personal experience, go find somebody else who does have that experience. And I love what you said about being a teacher. I mean, I explain to everybody, especially if anybody's listening to this who is a student. So many people now, you can reach out and say, will you be on my podcast for an interview? Can I interview for my blog post? If you are a student, I'm going to write a paper on you in school. Can I interview you? And many times successful people who are, and I say success, it's people who are, quote, as you said, living that good life in that career field or whatever you're looking to go and do, that passion, that hobby. They're willing to share with other people because they want other people to have that same feeling. So all you have to do is just reach out and ask the question. And what happens is that knowledge allows you to put all these ideas into your cookbook. So now when you're thinking about going for something, you're like, oh, you know what? You open the book up like, oh, I've got that idea there. Oh, wait, I can modify that recipe. Oh, wait, you know what? Even though I've never done a podcast before, I do work over here and I, created a whole new logistics program for my department. Oh, let me just go ahead and take that piece there and just change a few things out. And it's the same way for building my podcast. That's what mindset is. Do you see opportunities or do you just see, I'm going to give up?
Did you freestyle that, or you that's your normal speech on the kitchen and
that's all freestyle?
Wow, that's commendable.
Yep.
That's
And
commendable.
I mean, even when we're talking about speaking, like there's segments in there where it's come through conversation, it's come through writing, it's come from speeches. So that was freestyle, but what I was doing was I was pulling from different areas, but I've had over 30 years of training experience. So I'm pulling from past experiences. So, I mean, it's a case of, let's call it like a box of Lego. I'm freestyling right now. Well, with Lego, if you've been building Lego for the last 20 years and you've built a house and you built a mountain, you built a spaceship or a rocket ship, and right now you said, hey, Frank, can you please build me a boat? I can take all those little components over the years and put it together and probably make a boat for you. And you're like, have you ever built a boat before? No. But because I know what the bottom of a plane looks like, I know how to build it, I know how to put those pieces together. So when it comes to speaking, when I do interviews like this, I love it because the freestyle pieces, I'm able to pull from different segments of my life.
Right. So that's pretty cool. Culture. Tell us about culture a little bit.
Yeah, so culture, I love that one too, because culture is an experience.
Yes.
And it's an experience that's unique to either a group of people or an organization or a community or a workplace. And with our culture, it's both, if you look it up on the dictionary, it's both a verb and a noun. So the verb is to maintain conditions suitable for growth. So when you hear about culture, you're like, oh, wait. So it's supposed to be a situation or an area or environment that's going to be suitable for growth, personally, professionally. But then the noun is a set shared of beliefs or goals that identify an individual and organization. So the goals. So when we talk about culture, the people that you're around, what's the culture of those people? Are they doing things that are going to help you and them grow? That's a choice of who you're going to be around. Or, do they have goals? So I've gone to workplaces before and I've asked the question, like, what's your culture? And they go, I don't know. I mean, I've been in those environments. Guess what? I failed because they didn't understand their culture, the experience they're providing. So since they didn't understand it, then how can any of us understand it either and follow through? So I didn't grow. But then there's other groups I went through and I knew their culture was, hey, our culture here is to develop you, for you to grow, to promote you. Like one of my great mentors, nobody would really know him, but his name's Jim Pullen, but he's one of my first bosses. And he goes, I'm going to make all of you store managers. I'm like, what is he talking about? And at that point, because we're young and our mindset was not full of anything, as far as any recipes, like, I'm going to make all of you managers. Like, what's this guy talking about? We're cashiers and associates. Everybody got their own store because this culture was, I want people to grow, because he goes, I don't want to be recognized based off of my sales. I mean, recognized off the people that I promote. So, right. So he taught that to me, of which that's the culture I want to be around now. I always want to share with people and help other people grow. I want to create the environment or the situation that's suitable for people to grow. And if the case is, if I don't have the answer, I probably know somebody who does have the answer, so I can pass it along. So it's that servant leadership model of like, how do we help people grow? What can I do? I'd like to be a part of that. And like, I get goosebumps when someone goes, Frank, you shared some information or connect me with that person, and now I was able to go buy my house or take my kids out on a trip. I found the perfect ice cream to go and get. I'm like, wow, I was like, I was a part of that. And it sounds funny, but it's like just making the world a better place. So when it comes to culture, the idea is if you can't find a great culture where you or other people around you can grow, then you have to create it yourself. Those are your only two options. Because many of us say, hey, we go to this culture and the culture is not good. It's not ideal for growth. They have no goals. And that impacts you in a negative way and impacts your mindset. But if you can find the right culture, whether you mean you're joining an association, a social group, a group of friends, family members, but where they're always trying to help each other and they value you just as much. Like I said, my friend Joe values me and my goal just as much as his. So we always work together to grow. So that's what culture is.
Right on. I like that. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at this point, I'm going to ask you if you want to say anything about you, put your name, tell anybody where they can find Frank, and hoping this can land your Canadian speech.
Sure. So for anybody who wants to find me, pretty easy. There's one of me out there. Like most people only have one kitchen in their house. So we'll have some fun with it. But just look up Frank Kitchen. So Frank and then kitchen spelled just like the room. So I'll spell it because some people have difficulty. Kitchen. So kitchen, not Kitchener, right?
No, not Kitchener.
Yeah, so kitchen like the room. And what you're going to do is just frankkitchen.com. And if you go to my website, I mean, you will find free resources and you'll find investment resources to help you grow either personally or professionally. So whether it be public speaking, how to become a professional speaker, there's resources there, how to adjust your mindset, how to advance your career, how to improve your productivity, your profits. All that is going to be on my website, frankkitchen.com. And if not, you'll find me either on YouTube, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Same thing, is type in Frank Kitchen, just one of me. You'll find me out there, the guy with the shaved head, and we'll have a good time.
You know what's funny? I thought this was wasn't your real name. I said probably his business is like a kitchen, so you're Frank's Kitchen, right?
Yep.
So I really, when I get into it, no, I said this is a real name.
Yeah, people always ask that is the real name. And even like right now, as we're watching, if people come and watch this on YouTube, I tell the logo, people are always like, are you a cook? Are you a chef? Did you go and do? And I just joke around. I say, hey, you know what? I was like, I cook up things with a microphone. So I was like, yes, do I cook? Yes. But like, I work to cook up, tasty recipes, as you said earlier, tasty recipes and tasty results, but I do it with the microphone.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. So you work with groups and individual, Frank?
Yeah, so primarily as a keynote speaker, I'm working with organizations who want to create a workplace culture people hunger for. So I'm coming to do the keynote speeches. As far as individuals, a lot of people will go and invest in my books. We talk about how to value yourself and how to leave an impact or how to improve in your career choices. But I also will work with groups every now and then one-on-one, where it mostly be their public speaking, professional speaking, and a select group will work on how to transform a career aspiration into a reality.
So why you don't take that last one, transfer a career into a reality, and tell us a successful story of one of your clients?
Most of it tends to be speakers, but I can say probably the most successful one that I have, worked with. And once again, success is not about money. It's just about transforming that dream to reality. Is a young man. We'll see if he listens to this. His name is Dakota Johns. Dakota's in his 20s now, but I met him when he's 16. I was working. Great story. Like I said, most of my success stories tend to be speakers. And as I said earlier, success is not about monetary. Success is about transforming the vision or a dream into a reality. So this young man, his name's Dakota. I met him when he's around 16 years old. I was working at the Phoenix Zoo doing some talks and presentations, and Dakota was there as a volunteer. And when he found out that I was a speaker, he gave my business card to his mom, and his mom goes, "My son's dream is to become a professional speaker. Would you be willing to work with him?" So I was like, okay. Now the story is he's 16 years old, but what takes it to another level is Dakota has Down syndrome. And he was told that so many things in his life that he wouldn't be able to go and do.
Right.
So I started to mentor him and work with him, and we actually started to put together a coaching program for him. And fast forward a few years later, probably about a year and a half, he actually started to book paid speaking opportunities, and he and his mom traveled the country. Now he doesn't do it anymore, but the case was for, about a year or two, he was, as you said, living his good life. Yeah. He wanted to go speak. He wanted to do it in public, and he found somebody who could help coach him to make it happen. And to be honest, this is what helped, start my coaching career. I got goosebumps watching him from the back of the room. And many times I thought I was there to help him grow, but there's many points where he helped me grow also, because he connected with me with people. And there's certain speaking opportunities I got because of him, or there's certain like local celebrities here in Phoenix that he knew already that he connected with me. So that's the success story there, was just being able to work with him step by step. He's probably one of my first coaching clients. I used to, advise and coach people in college, but it's just one of those cases there. Some of the principles I taught him, I'm still using years later with my coaching clients.
Excellent. That's a good story. Mm-hmm. So Frank, before we wrap this thing up, let's focus on our last F, which is fitness. So do you have a morning routine, and how do you keep yourself fit in all of this?
So the fitness routine. So it's something's big. So for me, the big one is I turned 50 this year. And as a father and a husband, it's something, once again, when you're focused on yourself, you don't worry about it too much. But then when you realize you have other people dependent on you, you really want to take care of it. And I want to be around for as long as possible with my wife. We talk about that part. I want to be there when my kids get older, if they have grandkids or choose to have it, or, I want to be there for my daughters, whenever she decides to get married. I want to be there for the dance. So my normal routine is, I made the goal this year usually is, to be active every day, whether it be walking, hiking. I love hiking, getting outside. I do go to the gym. I do yoga. I went plant-based several years ago. So those are just part of the fitness routine. But ultimately, if I'm working with people, explaining to them how to make their life better, how can I explain to them how to make their life better if I don't look like I'm taking care of myself? True. So that's where it comes from is, with my career, I consider myself just like an athlete. This is my tool, my most important resource. If I don't take care of this, I can't speak, I can't coach, I can't write books, I can't be on this podcast. So I'm always reading, learning what's the best, you want to call it foods I can put inside of me. So no processed foods, pretty much water. Like I said, all plant-based is going on. Do I break from it every now and then? Yeah, nobody's perfect, but then I make sure I get back on it. And then even now, once this interview is over, my wife is going to go for a walk and jog, and I'll probably be out in the park right now doing baseball and softball practice with my kids, to make sure I'm active with them. So there's always something I'm looking to do just to keep active and go. It's not any type of formal routine. It's just, okay, today's Tuesday. What activity will I do for at least 30 minutes or more? It could be jogging, running, hiking, but there's going to be something that I do at least every day to keep myself active, mentally and physically. And as far as, like you said, a routine, wake up in the morning, and generally it's going to be a quick prayer, write down my goal for the day. And because my last name is Kitchen, I say, what's today's special? So I write down one thing or one theme for the day. So today's theme was, be a rock star speaker. I had you in a couple of interviews today. So whatever happens during the day, I have to make sure I focus on that. If we say what's today's special, you're always doing everything to cook up that idea. So every day I kind of wake up and I write one theme for the day. From there, the first 30 minutes to an hour, I work to stay away from technology, emails. I've tried to either read something, like I said, go out and walk, exercise. I make the first hour about me, because the rest of the day can kind of get carried away. So that's usually my routine. I'm going to wake up, little prayer, little meditation, exercise, drink some water, look at my calendar and schedule for the day to focus on what I want to do versus what I don't, and jump there, versus reading the news, watching other people's lives, because now what happens is I'm more focused on other people than the most important thing, which is I can't do anything else here in life if I don't take care of myself.
Right, true. So I'm pretty much the same schedule like you. I would do that first hour for myself, but I do a lot of stretches. One of the things I'm going to dare you to do for yourself is to start doing some cold showers if you're not doing it yet.
All right, I will work on that one, the cold showers, of which it won't be too hard here in about another month because I'm in Arizona. Yes. And because we'll be so hot, cold showers actually do feel really good. So I will definitely take advantage of that.
It really creates wonders. It does a lot for you, and it just energizes you. It just changes that whole you, and then bring that health or that energy, that burst of energy that comes back to you when you do that cold shower. I do it twice a day, so I love it.
Okay. I will take you up on that one. And just like you said, for even people who are listening, so we'll do the cold shower, but there's also just something about exercise. I mean, I sit on a board here in Phoenix, and we went to Oregon last week for a meeting, and one of our board members, he's about to turn 64 years old, and he goes every day like clockwork at 5 a.m. he goes to work out. It's an hour of walking and 30 minutes on a bike. So we're at the hotel, and he invited people to go, and everybody's like, that's too early, that's too early. And I'm like, yeah, I got every excuse, but you know what? I said my goal is to be active every day. So I got down to the hotel gym at 5:15 a.m. and there he was. Donald's already working out. Wow. So I worked out for about an hour, and when I left, Donald was still working out. So we took a picture together, and people can find the picture on LinkedIn. But the thing was, when I got to the room where we were doing the conference and session planning, Donald actually beat me down there too. But I told him thank you, because I was so energized because I did something for myself, but I also just getting the body moving and exercising, as you said, stretching, cold water showers, whatever it is, it's a boost for the rest of your day.
It is. It is. Cool. Listen, Frank, it was an honor having you on my show, and it's not the last conversation we'll have, of course.
Not at all. Not at all.
We'll stay connected, of course. I really appreciate your content. I'm sure my audience will resonate a lot with your content, and I do appreciate your time. And thank you very much. Just from my audience, we just want to thank Frank for being on our show. And please keep subscribing to our channel. And thank you. Have yourself a wonderful evening, and we'll talk again.
Hey, you're welcome. And before you stop this, you talked about your listeners too. Make sure, like you said, they're subscribing, but also leave some comments about some other people you want to hear Ray, interview, because I've listened to a couple of Ray's interviews, and he does a great job. So if there's anybody you want to have some inside knowledge or information on, send them over to Ray, and then Ray's going to look them up, and then he's going to have them on here, and then the show just keeps growing.
Thank you. That's so true. You're right. Okay. Thanks again, Frank.